The MLB offseason is officially off to the races, with the Phillies making the first big splash, signing Jordan Romano to help out the bullpen. But this cannot be the only move that is done, as there is still work to do. The rest of the MLB is getting better, and Dave Dombrowski needs to catch up. So me and Luke are here to dive into things, and I want to start right at the top with that announcement from Jeff Passan. Now, we do have our very own Luke Arcaini broke things down with a video that you can check out. Did an awesome job giving us a little bit about Romano specifically, but I want to talk about the rest of the bullpen beyond this. So Passan tweets out, closer Jordan Romano and the Philadelphia Phillies are in agreement on a free agent contract pending physical, which was passed. Sources tell ESPN. Romano, 31, was non-tendered by Toronto earlier this offseason and joins a Phillies bullpen that lost Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez in free agency. So it was that ending sentence that gave me a little bit of pause there. Now, to add to it a little bit more, Dave Dombrowski did say this quote saying, "I'm not saying that we would never add another guy, but I think if you've got four high leverage relievers, that we think that's pretty good." So, Luke, to toss it to you here, do you think this Romano signing means that we're not getting Hoffman or Estevez back, or how did you perceive that tweet?
No, I don't think so. I still think they're very much in the race for Hoffman. And I will say this, I think if you put what Dave Dombrowski said into a tweet, I think it looks as bad. There was a video of that question, and
Okay.
he did seem a little more like we are happy, but he didn't
Okay.
really say the but it did seem like there still could potentially be something there. I don't think this takes them out of the race for Hoffman at all. I don't think Estevez is going to be back. I think the sort of thought was it would probably be Hoffman before Estevez. But I think they still really like Hoffman. Hoffman obviously can. I think he definitely wants to pitch here still. There was a report from Matt Gelb earlier that said, yeah, right here, that the Phillies have remained interested in a reunion with Jeff Hoffman. It's unclear whether they can find a match because obviously there is sort of the rumors floating around that Hoffman may want to become a starter.
Yeah.
But if he does stay in the bullpen, I still think this could be a very pretty easy deal to get done for the Phillies. I think deep down, I think Dombrowski knows that I think that they would really like one more good bullpen arm. But yeah, I mean, as far as the Romano signing, I really do like it. I know I already sort of talked about that, but I really do like it. I think it's kind of hard, and I didn't really want to pull this graphic up because I think this was a tough showing for him because he did
Sure.
have a very bad hurt 2024 season. But if you run down the 4 years before that, he was gross. I believe it was 95 saves from 2021 to 2023. The ERA never went under like 2.8, or sorry, over 2.8. But he was a really, really powerful arm for the Blue Jays for about 4 years. So that if the Phillies get that Romano back, which I do think they will, I stressed this multiple times. I don't think they would have signed him and went through this physical if they didn't know he was 100% healthy. There was a report that they had some bullpen footage from like right after the offseason was done,
Okay.
and they said the arm looked just about really good. So I once again don't think they would sign him to a contract if they sort of thought there was something wrong. I mean, obviously that sort of thing can linger, but if you get the surgery like that, it everything should basically go as planned. So if you get the Jordan Romano of 2020 to 2023, it's a really good addition, and it honestly could be one of the steals of the offseason.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm kind of a believer in taking a buy low targets, particularly on relief pitchers. That I do think that's kind of a category of player where you kind of catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. I mean, look at Jeff Hoffman himself. This
And
was a
look at
dude.
about half the guys in our bullpen.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Jose Alvarado was not that great in Tampa Bay. Matt Strom was all right, but he wasn't the Matt Strom of the last 2 years in Boston. Hoffman on the Rockies was like one of the worst pitchers in baseball. Um, there's a very good chance that if you find the bullpen guys that have the stuff and they have the mind for it, you can turn them into some really good relievers. I mean, we've seen that already with those guys as well. But I give a lot of credit to the pitching coach, and it is a definitely will be a bit of a project. I don't think that's really the right word because when I say project, I think tend to lean sort of towards the prospects, but it'll be one that I think will take a little bit to get back. But once he's in full swing, I think it'll be a really nice signing.
Yeah, so I'm in on the Romano signing for those same reasons, that I think it's worth a chance at the minimum here, but I also wholeheartedly believe you can't just be relying this as the clear-cut answer. I will add,
Yeah.
sick walkout. Very
No,
cool.
great walkout.
Yeah,
Great walkout.
awesome stuff there. So excited to see that. But to kind of dig in a little bit more on the Jeff Hoffman conversation. So the starter, him wanting to be a starter, to me, when I first read this, my knee-jerk reaction was, well, enjoy suiting up in another city next year. That I did not see a world where this happened. I frankly think the best option for him straight up as a baseball player would just be to remain in the bullpen, where he's been excellent this past year. And to dive into those exact stats, I know we all remember the playoffs where things went south, and I was pretty shocked by that. But in 68 games this year, 66.1 innings pitched, had 89 strikeouts, really good stuff there. Just 48 hits allowed. That's 6.5 hits per 9 innings, a 2.17 ERA, and a .967 WHIP. He was great for this Phillies team. So I want Jeff Hoffman back on this team. The starter conversation made me nervous, but I also wanted to swing into this. We keep having this conversation about Painter being ready. Do you think that this could be kind of a handoff situation where Hoffman starts the year and then Painter takes over for the second half?
I saw, and I don't know if you got this because I did see a tweet about this today.
Okay.
I think it could be some sort of a strategy.
Okay.
If they were to do that and they wanted to try Hoffman, I don't think that would be their favorite option. I think they would like to go get another starter, but I think it could definitely be on the table if it needed to be. I still don't get the Hoffman thing for the starter. I don't think it
Me
makes a
neither.
ton of sense for him. I think he's really found his stride as
Yeah.
a reliever. And obviously, I mean the argument to it is the starting pitching market. I mean, he would make a lot more money as a
Sure.
starter than he would a reliever. But it's hard to go back to being a reliever after you're a fantastic reliever for 2 seasons. You go sign with a team to be a starter and it doesn't work out. If it didn't work out for Hoffman, it would be a challenge to get back to a dominant reliever again after a bad year starting. So I do think, in the most non-biased way, I think the best thing for him would be to stay in the bullpen. And I do once again really think that the Phillies like really want to bring him back. So as long as the two sides sort of are at an agreement, I do think he will be back with the Phillies.
Yeah, and I do hope that is the case. My fear is that they're just straight up priced out of him. And if he has this real hunger to be a starting pitcher, I don't think that's going to come with the guarantee here in Philadelphia. That I think like there's a chance where things play out this way, that's presented to the table. But I'm in agreement that I think that's far from plan A from a Dave Dombrowski perspective.
Yeah.
Now, like when looking at the depth chart for this bullpen right now, there's some good arms. Don't get me wrong. Ryan Kirkring still believe in heavily. Matt Strahm, we know who he is at this point. I'm hopeful we get a bounce back Jose Alvarado year. But I still think that there needs to be another guy in here. Now, we've talked plenty about a couple options. One guy that we've talked pretty heavily about is Tanner Scott here. His name's still floating about. That is a guy that I would love to see in red pinstripes next year. And I think having another lefty who has the caliber of arm that he has would be an excellent addition there. How realistic do you think that is? And there are other names that you think they should be targeting as well.
Yeah, I'm all over Tanner Scott. I'm all in on that one.
He's the man.
I think having another lefty would be sick too. I've loved Tanner Scott for years. I feel like we've brought his name up on this show a ton. I think he would fit perfect. I think that's one I think the Phillies could maybe get priced out of.
Okay.
But if they were truly heavy on the reliever market, if they wanted to decide on Hoffman or Scott, I think there's kind of an argument to both sides. I think it really depends sort of what side of the mound you want to bring in. Because honestly, I would say Tanner Scott's definitely the best left-handed reliever on the market right now. And I mean, honestly, Hoffman might be the best right-handed just based off of regular season stats. I mean, there's definitely some more righties available than the lefties, but Hoffman's definitely in that top pack of relievers left.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't think the Phillies are going to get both. I would love it. I think it's a lot less likely now they got Romano, even though that contract's not insanely big at all. But I don't know. And I've been thinking about it. If it was on the table, if I had to choose Scott or Hoffman, I think I would lean Tanner Scott, but I don't know. I think Hoffman will be a little cheaper, but I think Scott's probably the better pitcher. I don't know, man. I think it's closer than people think. And I think it's hard because a lot of the people are very, oh, the one Mets series heavy, but Jeff Hoffman's been your best reliever for the last like year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's a weird conversation. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it's hard. Like, I think it's impossible to fully wipe that away because that's the last time we've seen him pitch, and obviously at the
Yeah.
biggest moment. So I get that completely. I do kind of lean towards Tanner Scott when breaking down the two, and maybe that's because that's fresh in my brain. And I also think it's a little bit of we watch Jeff Hoffman pitch every time he's out there versus we don't quite have the same attention to Tanner Scott. So he certainly has stinkers that we don't take in the same way there. But the last point that I did want to get here before we sign off for the day, Carlos Estevez, man. I thought it was a good swing. I think conceptually it was a good target to bring in at the trade deadline. He just doesn't quite have the closer stuff that I kind of wanted him to see. He's a big boy. He tries to throw it hard. I liked having him on the team, but I just don't know if I see it. I think he's not quite the, S-tier caliber of reliever that you need to kind of have that personality and be that closer. I just don't see a world where he probably comes back at all. But do you think there is a chance where if they don't re-sign Hoffman, they go towards the Estevez direction, or how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, they could. I mean, I'm definitely not ruling out Estevez coming back. I think he's definitely in that very, very good tier.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him in that like top elite sort of tier with Tanner Scott. But he's definitely a good reliever. He's going to get paid. I think if I had to guess, I've seen a lot of Yankees for him. So he could maybe go to the Bronx. But I don't know. I would prefer Hoffman. But if Hoffman did leave and they weren't able to get Tanner Scott, then I think bringing Estevez back would be nice. It seemed like I didn't hear a bad word about him since the day he got here.
No,
There were no issues. It seemed like everyone loved him. I think that would be definitely one of the smarter moves if they were to lose the Hoffman and for Scott too.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to butcher the quote, but I remember vividly when he said it when he first got here, but something to the effect of, however I can contribute sand to this beautiful beach the Phillies have already built.
Yeah.
Like that's sick,
he
man.
he just wants to win. Yeah.
Yeah.
He just flat out wants to win.
So, yeah, not against it, but I do think he's just a slight notch below the caliber of pitcher that I'm hoping for. He plays with his food too much. It's kind of my biggest beef with Estevez there. But the bottom line is a lot more questions than answers with this Phillies team at this time. But the message that I do want to end with is there has to be another arm added to this Phillies team. So we will see who and if what that arm is for this Phillies team. But Dave Dombrowski, work the phones, brother. So appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video. As always, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video here and any comments you have below, and weigh in your thoughts on the Tanner Scott versus Carlos Estevez versus Jeff Hoffman or any other names you want to throw in the mix here. And me and Luke will be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.